Hey guys, this will be video 3 for the how to, I almost said restore, but how to build a 58 Explorer replica that is very much a custom guitar because it's going to have Lollar P90s, Lollar P90s, and it's going to be a gold top. And then if you're following the series at all, you've already discussed in extensive detail about it getting the 4 controls layout. And in video 1, I haven't watched that video in quite a while, but I'm pretty certain I just opened up that video with the plans on the table and talking about all the different things to consider when you're deviating from traditional, which can be extremely dangerous. But I was pretty confident that this was going to turn out really well. However, this is a design that I had never seen where it's got the 4 controls. And with that said, it does now. So this is body number 2, because if you go to video 2, and it's funny, I just watched the entire video 2, which was done about a month ago, and to see what all I covered or might need to pick up in video 3 and just continue with. And I got to tell you, that's a really good video if you're considering building a custom guitar, and you're, especially if it's a P90 equipped guitar, which this one will be. And I'm going to open these up in a little while, and we're going to compare the cream color to the parchment, and then we're going to talk about neck construction and all that jazz. I'm not going to do any work. I was planning on roughing out this maple and epoxying it down, but I thought today was Tuesday, and I thought yesterday was Monday. So apparently either I missed Sunday or I missed Monday, because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. So I really screwed up with respect to doing this second video or third video. So anyway, I'll do the best I can to make it worth your while, but unfortunately I won't be doing any work in this video because it's already late in the afternoon. So not complaining or anything, but I will say I apologize to Ed, because I promised you, oh yeah man, I'm going to do a video and we're going to jump back in the ring and all that jazz. But anyway, I'll do as much as I can, but Ed, feel free to give me a call as well if you got any questions after this video. So with respect to the guitar, this is body number 2, and I went ahead and just did every bit of the machine work I could so that it's ready to receive the top. But as I discussed in probably video 2, that I'm not going to start cutting for the P90s just yet. Couldn't find that one, but I did draw them where they probably will go, just so that I could make certain that I got that alignment right there. Because once she gets the top on it, the only thing that will allow you access to the control cavities of this guitar will be these 2 little slots here, and obviously this primary channel here, and then how it machines into the back right here, which is really beautiful and really tasteful. And I got to tell you, I really love this design, so I'm glad we're doing it. And the fact that I practiced on the body 1, this is, when I say identical, spot on. I didn't change anything because we nailed that one so well that just turned out really, really, really well. Very, very happy with it. Also, when I roughed out this body, I was able to carry the entire top of the guitar all the way down to this point right here. So every bit of this up here is one piece, except for about, I don't even know if it'll show. Yeah, I haven't done any of the final sand. So there's the glue line. Right, oh yeah, it shows really well right there. So I glued a little tip on it right there. But by the time you're plugged into the amp, I think you probably forget about that stuff. But I say that to say this: the funny part, when you're doing little glue ups like that, you want to make certain that it came from this location right here or this location right here. But however, because it's really, really difficult to get a board this wide that's not incredibly expensive, from this point here down is a glue line. and I can't even remember where it came from out of the large billet of wood, but it would have come out of. It may have come out of this piece right here, but this is what I was talking about, Ed. As far as when I planed that really large board, the first thing that came to me was you made a statement once. I'm cool if it's got some knots in it and some figure and all that jazz. And as soon as I saw this entire area section right here, man, I saw an explorer, because what was so incredible is the board. I'll try to explain if I can. Honduran is typically fairly straight, but sometimes it does have some sweeping in it. And this one just kind of swept right out of the board and swept up on basically the identical pitch of the upper wing right there. And this is what I meant by it almost looks like there's like a sunset going on, because when you go in, when you start assessing it from a standpoint of chatoyancy, it'll start turning strawberry blonde, and then all of a sudden it'll turn Honduran mahogany and warm and really beautiful. But I think even though it's got this little bit of a fissure line right here, this dark line, I say it was worth it to capture. There's a little knot right there, and it seems like there was another knot that might be in that body. It seems like there was a knot down here somewhere. There's a little bitty pin knot right there that might have a little bit of figure. But with that said, I think that, and that's something, even though I won't throw it under the bus, but I'll be able to make that disappear. But it's the strangest thing where you'll take a board, you'll take a piece of material from the exact same board within 6 inches away, and the color is literally like 5 times darker. So it's the most difficult thing to deal with when you're dealing with a footprint that enormous, that wide. I think it's about 18 and a half inches overall. But the good thing about this, I'm just going to go off the cuff in this whole video, because I'm not going to pause and try to start over any of that type stuff. But the cool thing about this actual design, as well as the controls layout cover, you're only picking up on that join right there and this join right here, and then there's a possibility, Ed. Just bear with me. I'm not 100% certain that I don't want to do this back access cover and then just leave the top solid like we did with Eric's guitar, because it would actually sound a little bit better. There would be some tonal improvements, but I was looking at it from the standpoint that, or it actually would be down here. But any division work you do, like if you were to drill a round plate here in order to access kind of like a Les Paul, then it's going to break the transition. It's just going to break the visual line. And so bear with me as I process through the job, because I had made the statement on the front end. Oh, it's your guitar. We'll do whatever you want and whatnot. But there's a part of me, if it helps make visual transition disappear, then I'm a firm believer in, yeah, let's definitely access it back here. And it's really tasteful as well. So, and it's not like we're covering up anything. Like if it had some sort of really horrific, you know, uh, uh, discoloration or something, or just anything that was unsightly, then that's a great way to make things go away. But I think by the time, and man, there's a part of me, if it were Tuesday, I probably would have spent a little bit more time with this and done some an additional sand work, even though this has been sanded up to 220. And then what I would have done was pulled out the nitrocellulose lacquer and clear coat it in real time, which would have been the first time I ever saw it clear, but obviously to allow Ed especially to get to see the guitar. But I think, because I did a little short sample video, and you could definitely see this kind of like this cascading sunsets, like almost like sun rays. I shouldn't say sunset, just more like sun rays coming out of the clouds. So there's your Bob Ross moment. Yeah, Ed, we joked about that Uh, so, and it's funny. I never cared for that guy, but neither here nor there. Uh, so there's your cascading turmoil in the forest moment. So and that's a side joke for Ed and I were talking about like this. This video series is almost like a Bob Ross channel, and the first thing it reminded me of was when I was a kid. There was a Saturday Night Live skit. I think they called it "Turmoil in the Forest," and there was this guy. It was probably John Belushi or someone who was mocking Bob Ross, and he started going into this painting and talking about all the little happy animals in the forest and whatnot. And then he kind of just went off the deep end and started tearing the painting apart and was talking about how there's turmoil in the forest and animals eating animals and cats and dogs not getting along. So it was hilarious. So anytime I think of Bob Ross, I think of the turmoil in the forest Saturday Night Live skit. So back to rockabilly. With that said, I like this body. It's not perfect. It's got some funky, cool character to it. But out of the board, when you got figuring like that, there's some beautiful flame going on across here. I just think this body's gonna just scream. I think it's gonna come alive. So anyway, but if you don't like that one, there is a third possibility. And this is what I was talking about to show you where these bodies come from. Uh, that was the original board. So that's what you're starting out with a board, that's this wide. Well, that width right there, 7 feet long, two in whatever thickness it is, and you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I start working from, but also to make certain that I don't just lose the entire board just for one guitar, because with that board, uh, I was considering doing a mid 50s Les Paul TV model job as well, which that fell through. The guy was unrealistic about pricing and stuff like that. So it really set me back, because I was then considering roughing all these guitars out based on, okay, well, I want to make certain that I make certain that Ed's guitar takes precedence, but I also want to make certain that if I can leave, if I can leave one more neck in, right here for the Les Paul, whether it's a guitar that I'm building for a client or a future guitar that I build for myself. It doesn't have to be a Les Paul, a remodel or a replica. That could be a jazz guitar neck. So it really, really slowed me down. But but nonetheless, regardless of whether I was quoting another job for someone else, I still would have spent days, which I did. I spent just days staring at that board with paper templates laid out on the large billet to make certain that I could get one extra guitar body or two extra necks and stuff like that. And that's where you're typically working from right there. So with that said, if for some strange reason Ed was just like, oh, absolutely not, that reminds me of something that I don't want to remember, then this part of the board is a very, very straight grain, clear part, but this would be body number 3. And I'm at a point now to where that's a custom body, and this is definitely a custom body, and I could really get myself in trouble. I don't have a problem having that extra one right there, and actually that was my choice to elect to let's build a body number B to make certain that we get a really beautiful choice, build, because I knew that I would be able to get the neck out of the same board. But if we go with this route with this straighter, cleaner grain, then I'm gonna have 3 Explorer replicas on my table that I might not be able to get rid of one of them or 2 of them. So I say that to say this. Just let me know what you think about that. But I really love it, Ed, and the fact that you made the statement that you love the character, the knots and stuff like that. Where I'm going with this, just that one little dark line, because what's making this job a more I just had to be far more sensitive to decision. Is this is going to be a clear guitar? And typically, when I'm building a guitar like this, I'm always doing just a little bit of coloring, not much, but I just want to make certain that if this thing has some character, that that you're cool seeing that character. So, but that's why I brought up this part down here. Uh, by going in from the backside, that will guarantee that your eye does not get drawn to any discoloration variation between these two boards. And this is what I meant by I completely understand why Gibson quit building this thing back in the 50s or 60s, because that's a nightmare to get every guitar to be consistent, so that you could have a marketing material, and then someone sees it. Oh wow, okay, it's going to look like that, and then they buy it, or possibly they order it, and it doesn't look anything like what they have in the sales brochures. Hence the reason they probably used the Lemba Carina for this guitar, because Lemba, you can pretty much glue it up anywhere in that body, and the glue line just vanishes. It's amazing. So, so with that said, I think it's a beautiful guitar, and the cool thing, Ed and I have talked enough that I think he'll love the character. But I was just blown away when I saw that, that Bob Ross moment. So anyway, let me stay on point here. Yeah, I've already talked about the two P90 locations. I'm close enough for rock and roll right there. I went ahead and made these cuts so that regardless of where we put the P90 back here, it'll definitely access into that location. Okay, and then up here is just a given, because I already know exactly where this P90 is going to go, pretty much up here. So anyway, so there's really nothing else to talk about right there, and the fact that it's a day later in the week than I thought it was. All I'll do is just briefly show the bird's eye, which it's irrelevant, because quite frankly, it's just going to be painted. There's nothing to see here. There's really not. Other than if the great thing about working with clear templates, if you were planning on doing the bird's eye maple, where you were really trying to do, or like for instance, Eric's last Explorer restoration that I did was absolutely a perfect example of, we spent an enormous amount of time making certain that the relationship of this upper to this lower was so tasteful and so beautiful, that after that guitar was finished, or hell, even before it was finished, it was so beautiful. But even though Ed's guitar is a paint grade, it's still bird's eye maple, because it guaranteed that it's a rock maple, a hard maple. But that's what you're going to see in your typical maple when you go to your woodcraft. It's like, oh wow, it doesn't all look like this right here, and your job is to work around these problems. See how beautiful it is down there? But nonetheless, it's a beautiful board. But like this location right here, if you were trying to do a clear cut guitar, obviously, then with the clear template, this is what I so love about having a clear. Well, then you could have made your entire glue up based on that, making that one location right there disappear, just by leaving this board longer or something like that. But nonetheless, I love the fact that this piece of bird's eye was so enormous that all it required was one glue line right here, and then the center glue line, and then basically this entire lower area comes out of one piece, other than just that one little corner there. So just obviously you study your subject, study your wood, and the beautiful thing about it was I hadn't planned on it, but the bird's eye maple that I bought for this job, I was able to lay this job out only because it's paint grade, and it allowed me to have enough material for another guitar top. So that was a really efficient use of that material right there. And again, what I was planning on doing was pausing, taking this over to my bandsawing this out, and then doing some rough sanding on the back and then epoxying this down because it's actually ready for that. But I just don't have time now that it's so late in the week. So, but that doesn't mean that I won't be doing that tonight or probably not tomorrow. I might do it tomorrow night. You know, depends on what's going on with family and stuff. So anyway, with that said, so if you got your clear templates, that really helps. Or if you don't have clear templates, just like I showed in probably video 1 or 2, I think it was video 1, where manipulate positive and negative space templates to slide the negative space template around, and then you'll see the guitar materialize. And if you don't know what I'm talking about positive and negative space templates, then I cover that in video 1 for this build series. Oops. Okay. Let me think what I want to talk about. Let's talk about P90s a little bit. Let's talk about Lollar pickups. And with that said, that'll give us an excuse to open up in real time and determine what the radius is going to be on these P90s. So with that said, or based on that, unless Ed's just really good at rewrapping, he probably hasn't seen these either. Make sure. I used Lollar P90s. Oh wow, man, geez, those are beautiful. God, how cool is that? Yeah, man. Really beautiful. Really good quality plastic there as well. Very nice. Oh, that's really nice. P90 bridge. That's awesome. And I love the fact when they've got the logo on there that it probably always helps you to stay on point. These should be universal. Yeah, they would be universal. But that guarantees that you maintain directional, and in the event one is wired a little bit differently, Lollar logo, P90 neck. So with that said, and the beauty about that, the wire comes off the right side. It'll be a very efficient use of the wiring. I very, very rarely cut wiring leads, but according to what goes on here, Ed, we got plenty of room in this cavity, but I would far prefer to do a real clean perimeter routing if necessary of any extended length wiring, especially in the event maybe you had some sort of problem with a pickup and you had to send it back. The fact that we didn't cut the lead down would probably greatly help with warranty claim. But back to Happy Thoughts, I'd be very unlikely that we have any problems with these. But I don't like to cut leads down in length. And the cool thing about the Explorer replica body, or even the traditional Explorer body, it's a fairly large footprint, so that's a fairly long track. But down here, there'll probably be about 3 to 4 inches left over that I'll just very neatly keep in the control cavities down here. I would not bundle it up anywhere up here. Okay. So the fact that they got that marked P90, that guarantees P90 neck, that guarantees that I'll never get these two crossed. But very nice. Let's look at the, as I predicted, the cream was going to be warmer and more vintage looking than the parchment, but absolutely really beautiful together. Very complimentary. Love that. Love stuff like that. So that'll be very cool that they'll stand alone. And this has a film on it, but I just want to clarify to you, Ed, I got your messaging in the early part of the build. We're going with the gloss surface up because you got the gloss top here. Even though the colors are different, it'd be really beautiful because once you get the gold going on in there, that'll look great. And not just saying either, this is going to be a very, very cool build once it comes together. And speaking of a cool build, I've got Eric's 1981 Explorer Tobacco Burst E2 Curly Maple Top shipped to him last week, and he seems to be a happy camper. And that thing is probably still sustaining right now from the last time he played it. So, Eric, I really appreciate you trusting me with your builds. And also, I met Ed through Eric as well. So it's been really cool to get to work for guys that are actually friends, and maybe they do some jamming together as well. So, with that said, let's put these back. Oh, completely forgot. The reason I opened up the box was to verify the radius so that I can now do some route work. We'll just check it based on my paper first. Spot on. Yeah. Say that. I don't make any assumptions. I know it's going to go in there without any problem. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a half-inch radius because it's not nearly as round. I think these are, and plus keep in mind these are paper. These are just for rough layout. They might not even be a perfect trim out. But when I'm looking at this radius variation right here, uh, there's not very much space in there at all. And this is going to be a 1/4 inch diameter. I think I'm always get this confused. Now this would be a half-inch diameter. I think a 1/4 inch radius, but this one's going to be a 3/4 inch diameter with a 3/8 inch radius. But with that said, I can assure you I will be taking my two different bits here and I'll be doing some sample route work to see how well it fits because I want this thing to be a really beautiful, crisp fit. Okay, and it will. So if I didn't clarify anything there, or if it sounded like I was kind of nonchalant about that radius, I'm not. I've definitely got different size bits where I'll be assessing those things and making certain that it's really beautiful. So with that said, I can now put that back together. It's probably, I thought that was a sticker. Oh, and anything that is in there, obviously, Ed, I always send stuff back to the clients. Don't keep anything, again, especially in the event you had, or if you decided to pull them out and sell them one day, you would always have the box and the original paperwork. It gets pretty dusty in this basement shop, so I gotta keep those clean. Okay, what's that? 20 minutes, 28 minutes? Oh, yeah. Let me pause for a second. Okay, had to get a drink of water there. So with that said, the next thing will be the top being glued down, and then after the top gets glued down, then I do your final thickness work where I'll be taking off the top material in order to receive the binding. So it ends up being right at about 1 1/2 inch thick. I've seen some of them that were just very, very slightly under 1 1/2 inch, but I've also built them as thick as 1 5/8 inch thick. But the first Carina Limba one replica that I built it 1 5/8 inch, and it ended up being about 9.5 pounds, which is not heavy at all. But it would have been lighter if I'd have gone thinner. But you don't want to go below 1 1/2 inch in your total thickness on a guitar like this. And speaking of, if you're listening via earbuds, I'm going to very respectfully give you time to either take your earbuds out or turn the volume down considerably because this thing is terrifyingly loud as far as doing tap tones. So with that said, going once, going twice, I'm not gonna be slamming into it really hard, but I am going to be hitting it. and this thing is going to be an absolute tone monster. So. That right there, that kind of dead thud, that's probably the node. Like if you were able to grab hold of that right there with your thumb and your finger on the other side, you would be able to suspend this and then start tapping, and the whole thing would start just I can't think of the word. It would just start reverberating like a xylophone. So anyway, that's called the node. But when you're tapping along in one, and you hit kind of a dead thud sound, that's probably the node. It's crazy. That's insane. What is that? That's Honduran mahogany. And that's about as predictable can be. Ed's guitar, Honduran mahogany body, maple cap, even though it was soft maple. Thing sounded incredible, probably still does. And sustain all day long. So I don't expect anything different from Ed's guitar here. And if anything, Ed's guitar is going to have the hard maple. It might have just a little bit. It'll just be different. Is it going to be better or worse? No, there's really no such thing. It's going to be different, and it might be a little bit brighter, but then again, it might end up being a little bit darker than Ed's than Eric's. So beautiful, 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 beautiful tap tone. So I'm very, very happy with that. And with that said, let me pause and get. I want to get something here on the table. Okay, that's amazing how time is just flying in this video. Maybe I'm rambling too much, but I've already got this back about 98% close to finish. It's still not finished, and the last thing I want to do is introduce any scarring in the body. So with that said, I'm going to try to keep some cloth down. Okay, I don't think there's anything else to talk about with relation to building this body or the layout. We've already talked about the P90s location, and the coolest of cool things I forgot that I had done. This was when I restored one of the 68 to 74 Gibson Les Pauls about 6 months back, and it had a vintage pickguard on it. Took advantage of that, and I did an actual spot on tracing. So the cool thing is once I held it up to my Stuart McDonald template, I realized it's from the actual edge of the pickup to the edge there is going to be about exactly 1/4 of an inch. So the cool thing is, this being a 68 to 74, it shows that it would have moved forward just a little bit more. So anyway, but with that said, Ed and I have already agreed, yeah, we're probably going to move it about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm not going to spend any more time talking about this other than just the fact that I tripped up on that P90 pickguard. And if you were unknown, sometimes just order a vintage correct pickguard, and just like we did with Eric's 81 Explorer, we kind of built that body around that vintage pickguard that he had, and it guaranteed that everything stayed true and historically accurate. I'm not talking about footprint here. I'm just talking about pickup locations. Or if you don't understand how to engineer that stuff, well, the company that made that pickguard, they've built a bunch of them. So wherever they elected to put it in 1968 to 74, there was a reason for that. So vintage pickguards, they're very, very, well, let me put it this way. I've seen vintage pickguards pop up before and sell for $15, $20, and then I have seen them sell for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So it's a great item to have in your arsenal if you like doing this type work, this design work and stuff. Layout is where I'm going with this. They're great for layout because if you have a center line and a pick guard, you can pretty much build a whole guitar. Okay, so with that said, I don't think there's any reason to talk about that anymore, other than I completely forgot to clarify. I like the idea of going ahead and machining out the center line locations just based on my templates, of course, but also like if you've got a center line here, you can, because when you're doing this cut right here, that's the 19th fret location finished. So once you have that 19th fret location, this location is now going to define the entire guitar. And what you can do, if you don't trust yourself, then just keep working till you get it right. But if that center line right there lines up with the center line on the body, then you know you're definitely on point, and you're in great you're working in the right. We'll just keep talking about this body a little bit. You're in the right direction as far as doing layout and stuff like that, and you can just use these little crutches like this to come down here. That's 1 1/2 inch historically accurate. Come down here and make them draw a straight line here, then step up here, draw a straight line mark back here. Don't get too busy with your body. All you're doing right now is just verifying that you got your mortise, the mortise for the tenon, that you got it correctly routed. And right now, if you screwed it up, now would be the time to clean that up and correct that, because if you don't correct it, you'll forget that you might have verified it and realized I'm only off a little bit. Well, that might get exaggerated later on. So then you'll make some marks back here and then just measure off the center line and make certain that they're the same. And I haven't done that because there's no reason to, but or I say I haven't. I probably did after I did the machine work, but every bit of that was done from my template, and I've built numerous guitars from that template. So trust it 100%. Okay, now I can stop talking about that body and let's start talking about necks a little bit. And actually, how convenient that we talked about that I just laid the tenons up there, because that's exactly where this neck billet is right now. And let me slow down and get my other, let me pause. Okay, I'm glad I paused because it got me back on point to think about the importance of where this neck came from out of the board. That entire large billet, that neck came from that location right there. And why did it not come from this location, like right in the middle? Because it would have cost me an entire Les Paul replica body or a Gretsch Penguin replica body or something else down there. So it worked out really well. I was able to get the other neck that I showed early in the video up in that location right there. And then it worked out great because it's very, very close. And it's not like it's flipped over like that. It's not like the board from the large billet that's the reverse side of it, but that's exactly from that location right there. And it very well could have been, because of that angle cut right there, might have been perfect to have left that. And then you ended up with see the tenon will stop right there. I don't know what you can see from the pencil standpoint, but I've got this entire neck drawn out on this billet and was literally splitting right down to the very rough cut in order to guarantee that I only took out the material that I needed and no more or no less. Because when I'm just doing rough out, I'm just literally trying to really design every other guitar that might be in that board so that I don't pick up a board later on and go, oh man, that would have been perfect for XYZ. And if I had just taken more time roughing out Ed's guitar, and not at the expense of selecting a beautiful board, because as I said, his body here was very much taking precedence because of that real cool um, cascade, the sun rays, and then by going ahead and doing these angle cuts, if you just rough this out of the board and you cut it rectangular and rectangular and S4S, which means square four sides, or surfaced on all four sides. And if you're surfaced and or square four sides, then that means this thing is perfectly true. Meaning, like, if you came in here from any situation and started assessing it, it's perfectly true all the way around. But now, as I just flip that board a couple 20, 30 times and turn it around this way, you might pick it up later on and go, well, wait a minute, where did this come from? And if you got this, but since I drew everything and laid it out before I even did this rough cutout work, I knew that it would guarantee that I didn't run the risk of this crap right here, or even worse, something like that right there taking place. Because what would happen is Honduran mahogany, especially because that's almost 100% quarter sawn, it is yeah, it's about as close as you can get to not. It's that would definitely be considered quarter sawn, but it's on about an 85-degree angle with the grain. But nonetheless, with that said, when you cut into that quarter sawn, there's no telling what might start taking place with respect to figure. Now, I don't see a whole lot of figure up here, so uh, don't bet on it, because I don't see any figure up here. I got a feeling this is going to stay fairly clear, but nonetheless, it'll stay clear with respect to the color of the center of the body and all that jazz. So it'll make for a really beautiful neck, because what would happen if you got it reversed, especially if you flipped it over this way, once you took the guitar and you started turning it, all of a sudden it'll turn supermodel blonde, and then strawberry red, and then back to deep dark warm Honduran, and then what you might be getting some beautiful blonde right here, but then it's burgundy up there, and then you flip it and now it's blonde up here and it's burgundy down there. So you're doing everything you can to be very selective about that type of stuff. And I'm going to stop, because I don't want to sound like it's guitar worship, as I say, because it is not. I would just as soon be building beautiful doors, cabinet work, or stuff like that. But when you're doing that type work, especially like if you're building extremely valuable custom doors, because I've done a lot of that type of stuff as well, architectural millwork, you're always very selective about what's going on in the raised panels in relation to the style and rail construction of the door. And you guys that are woodworkers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But all that stuff is really important when one walks by an architecturally correct house, or you open up the door, you see it, the chatoyancy captured together. So anyway, does it matter if it did get flipped around or it came from a different tree? Not really. Not really. If anything, sometimes that gives it character. But when it comes to a guitar, I want the neck and the body to look like it came from the same board and the same orientation, not just the same country. So, with that said, let's start talking about how I actually laid all this out. So, I knew that based on the board, that location of the board was more quarter sawn, or it was going from plain to rift very quickly into quarter. So I knew that, okay, well then I'm gonna be laying out. I'm gonna be using the Stuart McDonald template because it's clear, but then and I'm surprised I didn't leave it on there. Uh, Usually, what I do is I'll take a Sharpie and I'll do a Sharpie mark where the Explorer replica tenon will be, or like the Flying V, and then I'll use this Stewmac uh, template up atop the board as I'm moving it around, and considering, okay, maybe I don't get, maybe I'm getting two necks, then I don't have a problem turning this neck in this direction as long as the body that it's going into is facing this direction. So, and I don't remember if that happened with the other, it's irrelevant. But by using these two Stuart McDonald templates, I was able to guarantee that I drew the Gibson heel, all the Gibson profiles and all that jazz. I mean, a neck is a neck as far as just the widths here and the widths here. But having these templates, it really helped when I started laying out the side. Although the Les Paul profile, the headstock is a steeper pitch, and I can't remember what pitch I went with. I think it's 13 degree pitch. Most of my Explorers replicas that I build, I go with a 12-degree pitch, but historically accurate in the 50s, I'm pretty sure it would have been 14 degrees, but possibly more. But they learned very quickly that was a mistake because the headstock was so long that if you pitched over 13 or 14 degree pitch, man, you had to have a case this deep in order to hold the guitar. And like I said, all the ones that I build, they are a 12 degree pitch, but I cut this one at 13. I gave it just a little bit more historically accurate. But why? Because I had the material for it. And my theory is, if that Honduran is there, take advantage of it. If this Honduran had been a little bit thinner, I would have clarified it that I might have said, hey, if you're okay, Ed, I'd like to just go 12 degree on this one, so it won't have a little fillet on the end or anything like that. But it didn't require it. And the entire center neck, the entire neck is a 100% one-piece Honduran mahogany quarter sewn neck, and it's pretty rare, and out of the exact same board, which we've already had this conversation. But by using the Stuart McDonald templates, I was able to do the rough drawing for the heel, determine the heel location. Even though the pitch is different for the Les Paul, I'm just working from my 19th fret location that I had engineered based on where see, this point right here is where the headstock will start pitching, and I hope that's showing up, the pencil. Let me just kind of go a little slower. See, that's the headstock location right there. And then all of a sudden, that's the nut location where the nut begins. You actually draw the nut so that you don't get lost later on. I go ahead and draw the first fret location. Be willing to bet you Eric's 1981 Explorer. Let me make sure that before I give your guitar away. Yeah, that's the 11th fret. So first fret location, the 11th fret location, and based on that, now I can taper my neck per historically accurate specs. And then, so I'm working everything from the top and a center line, because I'm eventually going to find the 19th fret location and go ahead and do this machine work so that it defines my heel. And then once that heel is defined, I could put this over on the shelf for as long as I wanted to, but come back to this later on and not have to re-engineer what it is that I did. Because by making that cut, I knew that I was able to table this build about 3 weeks ago as I was focusing on finishing up Eric's guitar. And that's what I meant by, even though I haven't done a video for this guitar, I was continually working on it, but I knew when to make certain that I stayed on point here, so that I didn't have to come back and reassess what it was I was even thinking. So, because once I define that and the pencil marks are there, and once I define that pitch right there, what is that based on? Every bit of this was based on the large billet of tree that was laying over there on the table saw. And, that's my rough out templates, and that's my real beautiful trim work there, or finished machine work, then all I'll have is I'll basically will have a two-piece neck, and the only thing that will be the second piece will be this little wing right here. And I'm so glad I'm talking about this. Well, if you want to call that the third piece, you can, but it'll have a little ear up there. But I like this design, and some people would say, well, that's not nearly as strong as the vintage Bob Ross version of the Explorer, because they put the real strong continuing board across there. Yeah, what a dumbass move too, because what that guarantees is you got this super strong board that you added into this neck, so that if and when that guitar takes a fall, now it's real nice and strong up there at the headstock, and it guarantees that it fractures down here or worse down here. But with my design, if it takes a fall, boom, it's going to blow off. It's going to blow off. It's going to break right there at the grain, and it's going to blow that off. And probably the high E tuner will probably blow out as well, or it might stay. I'm pretty sure that goes right across the high E location, but it's a crumple zone. It's a crash zone, and it allows for a very unlikely break any worse than just blowing off that part right there. So, and what does it do visually? It's absolutely beautiful, because I'm matching these grains down here on the end as well. So it's multiple. It's the way Gibson would have built their jazz guitars or their Les Pauls, where they glue in little ears on the side, because well, that's a different guitar, but they're definitely matching the end grain for beauty as much as possible. But I like it because it allows for a crumple zone in the event the guitar falls. I would just about be willing to guarantee you that that's where it would break right there. Because see, the Honda, and especially the quarter sawn material, that grain is going to be right there, and that would be the break point. Okay, so not that we're building airplanes to be crashed or guitars to be dropped, but crap happens, and this would very likely guarantee that it's a far less catastrophic break. So once you're laid out on the top and you know where the tenon is, then if you need to do some cutting, then you can. But I went ahead and defined that pitch. 2.5 degrees is going to be the magic number. And what will that yield? A spot on 19 millimeter string height at the bottom of the string, the D and the G, E, A, D, and G. At the bottom of the D and G string, from the top of the maple, it should be right at about 18 to 19 millimeter. So, and what is that imperial? I think it's funny. I use a metric so much now. I'm beginning to get weak. Okay. Have to look at it. It's 5/8. It's 11/16. It's about 11/16. 3/4. It's getting a little bit too tall. Believe me, you'll feel it. But what is the saving grace on a guitar like this is the thickness of the pickguard material really makes up for it. So if you got your bridge a little bit high, let's say you got up to the 3/4 mark, then the pickguard will cover a multitude of sins right there. But if you were building a flat top guitar that was not going to have a pickguard, then make certain that you don't let that pitch go over. Don't let that pitch cause your bridge height or your string height to be over 18 millimeter. Try to keep it closer to 17 millimeter or closer to 5/8 of an inch. And that's why I went ahead and made that cut right there, because I knew that I had engineered that point right there. I hadn't pitched that yet, but I just knew that was the guitar that we wanted to build. This is what I meant, Ed, a month or so back, when I was like, "Hey, this will be a great time to build your guitar, because I'm in Explorer Replica mode, or not even that. I was in Explorer Restoration mode, and I had just come off the heels of restoring the 1969 Gibson SG. So what are those? Those are flat top guitars with a mortise and tenon neck that is pitched. So I was in that realm where it's not like I had been building hollow body jazz guitars for the last 2 years straight, and now all of a sudden I got to build something that's I've done before, but I'd have to get back in the saddle. So with these projects that I've worked on the past few months, it was a perfect time to do explorer type work and or restoration and repairs. So once you got the top laid out, go to the side and use your Stewmac template. Change the length from the nut to the 19th fret. In other words, all you're doing, you're taking a Les Paul template and you're just moving it down. You're just moving the heel down to the 19th fret, but then you're changing that pitch up there accordingly. And then once you've got it drawn, now you're ready to go to your bandsaw and start doing all that work. And let me check the time. Yeah, 55 minutes. I'll go ahead and spend about 5 minutes in case the camera for some reason cuts me off. My camera has a tendency to cut me off around the 1 hour mark, but I'm only going to cover the truss rod briefly, Ed, because you had mentioned not really grasping what it is that we're talking about and how they function. So once I start, the next video is where I'll be showing a lot more about what's really going on here. But this is your actual truss rod. And I don't think it's going to show in the camera. Let me see if that. No, it's virtually. I get lucky every now and then, and you can see the pencil. But just know that obviously the truss rod. There's two different ways the truss rod can go in. The truss rod is designed to go in, and is actually designed to go in the middle. Obviously, it would get routed out. And I'm not going to spend any time talking about how incredibly detailed I am about installing the truss rod, other than the fact that if this has a round bottom on this rod and a flat top up here, well then that's exactly what happens from a machine standpoint. The bottom will be the identical radius and the top will have a fillet epoxied in that will be S4S, so that your truss rod is 100% perfectly embedded in there. And when you just kiss the rod, it's incredibly hypersensitive. And that's what I meant by, see, that rod is neutral or perfectly straight. And after this part of the video, you can pretty much just cut the video off, because this is absolutely the most important discovery that we'll make here. I roughed this out about 3 weeks ago. It has not moved. It is absolutely perfect. It's flawless. It's Honduran mahogany. If this were maple, it probably would have moved a little bit, and I'd have to do some additional machine work to this. But I can just about guarantee you that when I come in here and cut every bit of this material out right here, what's going to happen, this neck, I'm going to exaggerate, but the neck's going to want to pull down a little bit like that. But how much is it going to drop? It's going to drop about a 32nd of an inch, or like a half a millimeter, or it might drop as much as 1 millimeter, or not. Maybe I've never seen one drop a 1/16 of an inch in Honduran mahogany. But if it drops a little bit, then I'm going to be machining this top flat again, guaranteeing that once this truss rod goes in perfectly straight, it's going into a board that might be, we'll just say it's 3/4 of an inch thick down here and 15/16 thick back here. But that truss rod will be going in perfectly flat into a perfectly flat channel that has a radius bottom, and everything is what I would call neutral. And then when the fretboard gets glued down, everything's neutral. And that's what I meant by, I'm not relying on a truss rod to force poor workmanship or a board that should have been rejected into submission to try to turn it into a neck, because that spells, it would probably be acceptable, but it would be nightmarish if you started touring with it and going from country to country, from climate to climate. And that's what I meant by, you're not going to have any problems with this neck. I can guarantee you that. And even once I do all that machine work, everything on the inside is sealed with nitrocellulose lacquer. There are no unfinished surfaces in any of my guitars. Everything in there, all of that will be, all those channels, anywhere there's a route or machine, anywhere there's machine work, it will be sealed with the nitrocellulose lacquer. So I'm gonna stop talking about the truss rod, because in the next videos I'll talk about the engineering behind this truss rod and how brilliant, how absolutely unbelievably brilliant that design is. And for the life of me, I don't understand why more companies are not using them. And I'm not going to say that Gibson or Fender or whomever, the big boys that are out there, are not using them, because they probably are in some guitars. And they're super light as well. Okay, so let me check the time. All right, we're over a minute. Still here. Haven't cut me off. Going once, going twice. Let me look at the table. Next video, next week sometime. But it'll have the bird's eye maple epoxy down, or either I'll do that in video, and then should be ready for routing to do the binding, and then I'll have this neck going as well. So it's still not finished. You know, there's still work to be done. But I appreciate you guys dropping in. And if you got any questions, Ed, feel free to give me a call anytime, even over this weekend and stuff. And we'll go from there. And I'm trying not to sound rushed, but I just want to make certain that I hit some high points in case my camera cuts me off. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys dropping in and always leaving messages and stuff. And with that said, I've already talked about the P90 pick guards, so there's no reason to talk about that type of stuff. But sometimes it's very helpful to have those components, and sometimes it presents a design idea for you as well. So I appreciate you guys dropping in, and I'll see you next week sometime. Thanks.